Good morning.
Good morning.
I am so looking forward to today's conversation. It's I'm going to share something funny that I feel honored that happened to me, and at the same time, it's just an example of the insanity that's happening in the world. It's pretty crazy, pretty crazy. But today is Wednesday, April the 14th, and we're going to talk about freedom according to A Course in Miracles. And it is some freedom and power, because they do go together as the Course teaches it. But anyways, before I share my little tidbit, I wanted to check in with you guys. Kat, how are you doing?
I'm doing beautiful. I'm doing beautiful.
I love hearing that. Thank you. Thank you. And how about you, John?
Oh, if it was any better, I'd be floating.
What makes it so good for you?
It's peaceful, and my sisters are coming to visit me.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah, they drove down from New Jersey and Delaware. They've been driving for a few days, having their own adventure, and I haven't seen them in a good number of years. And so they left their children and husbands at home, and they struck it out to Thelma and Louise on the road. And I hope to see them this evening. So I'm pretty excited about it.
Oh, that is so wonderful. So wonderful. And Vern, how are you doing today?
Well, I woke up this morning and the grass was on the right side and I was ecstatic.
Grass?
That means
You mean you're not under?
That's right.
I didn't know what the hell you were talking about.
You never heard that before? I woke up.
I never heard that. The grass is on the right side.
Yeah, well, every day above ground's a good day.
Right.
But I love the grass one. I love the grass one myself. That's my preference.
That's cute. That's cute.
We're trying to laugh today, right?
Absolutely.
I can use some laughter after what I went through last night. I could use a lot of laughter.
Good, good, good.
Well,
Well,
call you, Vern.
we are definitely going to have some fun conversations. Vern, I'm going to send you an email so you and I can connect, because I'm feeling that this call for you and I to do something together stronger now.
All right.
And a quick check-in. How are you doing, Lorelei, today? Just
I'm
a
okay.
quick one-liner. You're okay. Good. Good. And how about you, Habiba? How are you doing today?
I'm doing amazingly well today.
Yay. Love that.
Yeah,
And-
thank you.
And Lawana, and then I'll go to Lisa after that. Lawana,
Hey,
how are
hey.
you doing today?
I'm doing really good, Lana. Thank you for asking. Yes, I'm having a great day.
Yes.
happy to be here.
Awesome. And you, Miss Lisa, and then we'll go to Sarita and then Christo. Lisa, how are you
Hey,
doing today?
I'm doing great. It's a beautiful day.
Ah, wonderful. Miss Sarita, good to have you here. How are you doing today?
I am well. Thank you so much for asking.
Love that. And what about you, Christo? And then we'll ask Dondra. How are you doing today?
Well, I'm looking out the window. The leaves are coming out and I'm on top of the world and I see Vern is out in space as well. So I'm feeling good.
That's why he's above the grass. Dondra, how are you doing today?
I am good. I'm driving to Buckhead to get my hair cut, so I'm going to be listening and paying attention to the road.
Woohoo! Love that. Love that. Well, I'm going to go ahead and just mute everybody so we have no background noise for this. But today I am really excited to share something that has been a first for me. And they both happened within I want to say maybe 24 hours of each other. And it is now a badge of honor that I'm going to be wearing, but at the same time, it is an example of the state of insanity the world is in. So for the first time, I got a notice from YouTube that one of my videos, one of these classes, class number 5, has been banned because I am not supporting the proper, I forget the terminology, but I am not going with what is recommended as it pertains to that thing that I didn't even want to say the word, that virus. I must have shared here my opinions around that whole situation. So anyway, so that video has been banned, and it's taught me a lesson, because now I've got to make sure that I save my videos. Once I put them on YouTube, I delete them, but they got rid of it. So I have like 2 or 3 days to be able to record it. So I'm going to use my camera to re-record a video that's on. I got to play it on YouTube. So anyways, that is, I wear it as a badge of honor, because those who are censored are telling truth. So finally YouTube caught on to that I'm teaching truth. And the other thing is, I had put an image around my picture, my profile on YouTube, that said that I am not going to participate in getting the shot. You know what I'm talking about? I don't want to say the words, I don't want this video to be taken down as well. Anyways, my profile photo was removed, and I was only given options to select to put around my profile messages of my support of that shot in the arm. So anyways, so it's really, really funny. It's coming fast and furious. And as I was sitting inside of the, wow, I finally am being targeted for speaking truth. How exciting that is. But at the same time, it makes me more determined to help others understand what truth is. Because in this world of illusion, everything is backwards. Everything is upside down. What is projected into the world, what is portrayed as white is actually black, and what is taught to us as black is actually white. What we're told that is good is actually bad, and what we're told is bad is actually good. And our mind has to be in alignment with God in order, and when I say God, creation, source, infinite energy, intelligence, it does not matter what we call it. We have got to get beyond the labels that we put on the infinite intelligence that everything comes from, which is the ultimate truth. So it's really, really fascinating how still so many people who are operating with this fear that somehow it's a badge of honor to get that thing put into their body, that accepting that as a badge of honor is a good thing, without questioning. Now that in and of itself, and we'll talk about why, is not an issue. It's okay for anybody who wants to go ahead and put that thing in their body. It's okay. But where it is not okay, where we have to be strong, is in calling out that the desire to do something for themselves, when it is connected with taking the freedom away from another, that is not loving, and it is not of God, and it is not okay. It is not of this country. It is not of our Constitution. So there's a couple of things that we have to look at. Understand what freedom really means. Understand the laws of this world, the laws that the ego has created to block the laws of God. Having a clear understanding about that is what is going to allow us to have a very clear understanding of freedom. Freedom is not just choosing to take that thing or not. Freedom is not just being allowed to do whatever it is that we want to do on this plane. Freedom is knowing that we're not of this world. Freedom is knowing that what we are is eternal energy. That's where our freedom comes from, because in this world where there's still a lot of egoic control, oftentimes those who speak of the true freedom that we find with the Father are the ones who are used as examples of those dark forces having the power to take their freedom away. And it usually happens, excuse me, let me cough. Sorry about that. Those who truly know what freedom is all about, as Jesus experienced, are the ones who get crucified. And Jesus had no fear of the crucifixion. And we have got to get clear that there is no crucifixion to one who knows the truth of God. The body is not who we are. It's simply a vehicle we are traveling in. but we can't power this vehicle with the strength of God's truth and ultimate freedom if our mind is polluted with fears and irrational ideas that seek to judge others or seeks to condemn others or seeks to be unloving, because we lose our ultimate eternal freedom the minute we enter into justification, defensiveness, into fear, into any kind of judgment. And this is where the distinction between those who are awake and those who are spiritual has to be made. Being self-aware, being spiritual, it is not being Christian, being Jewish, being atheist. It is not the same as being awake. To be awake is to know what's happening in this world is completely a game. It is a game of free will. Everybody is choosing what they want to do. You choose to put that thing in, you choose not to put it. None of that can affect your ultimate freedom because it's a role that we're all playing. So the Course invites us to come into alignment with the powerful artist that we are, the powerful creator that's playing a role in the insanity, the powerful one that is made in the image of the creator, so that we can create a reality that is aligned with true freedom. But for that, we've got to face all of our misperceptions and the fears that have been programmed into our minds by those who understand the way the mind works. And nobody gets out of this insanity of the ego without understanding the way the mind works. But here's the thing: those who allow the ego to be their master and have created a lot of darkness on their planet, the false prophets, the false authority, the ones that have been idolized, they know how the mind works. So they can control the masses who don't understand how the mind works. Knowing how your mind works makes you self-aware, but it doesn't wake you up. Awakening is knowing how the heart works, and not the heart that pumps blood in our bodies, knowing how love works. And that's what Jesus exampled for us through the process of the crucifixion. He knows how the mind works. I'm not a body, I am free. I'm still as God created me. I don't have to feel pain if I decide not to believe it's real. He knew how the mind works, teaching us that in Course in Miracles very clearly how the mind works. You have to understand there's two voices: the voice for fear, the voice for love, the voice of God, the voice of ego. But Jesus, through the resurrection, exampled for us how love works, how the heart works. That is where his freedom came from. He so loved the world that he said, forgive them. They don't know what they're doing, because they don't understand how the mind and the heart works. They might know how the mind works, but they don't have it both. They're not wholehearted. Whole with mind and heart together in alignment is what makes us wholehearted. So I want to share from the Course in Miracles, a section in chapter 20, which is titled, that whole chapter is titled, The Vision of Holiness. And I want to focus in a section number 4, called Entering the Ark. So before we go there, I want to check in with anybody. Does anybody have any comments or questions before we proceed? Does that topic sound juicy? Does this make sense? Unmute yourself if you want to share something. Yes, Vern, please.
Yeah, I'm not surprised that what happened to you. I've got a number of friends that are having the same thing occur. They are reaching out to other ways, other platforms.
Yeah.
I'm supposed to hear more about them in a week or so, because it's like you said, it's the craziness that's there. I got a call again from my buddy over at Adventure Outdoors, and he said, you better come over now. That was yesterday in the morning. He says, we've got right now what's happening is you can get one box of 9mm. That's it, per person.
Wow.
They're shutting it down all over.
Wow.
And he said, we don't even know we're going to have anything next week. And that's one of the largest places in Atlanta. And the government is buying up all of it. So this is one of those, the freedom, I mean, Second Amendment, I mean, can't get much more into freedom than that.
Yes.
And so, I mean, again, there's a lot of things that are going on, but it's not going to happen. It's happening.
Mm-hmm.
We're in it now.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen. This is no longer a future thing. This is a current impact on day-to-day life.
Yeah.
It's also going to take 6 months now to get a concealed carry permit, which is basically a permit to have a handgun. That's what it is. 6 months.
Yes, it's going to get tighter and tighter and tighter, because this is where we are. When you understand how the mind works, when you understand awakening, the ego begins to create a lot of suffering inside of us so that we will back off from our awakening. As within, so without. Those with the illusion of power are going to constrict as much as possible those who want to be free, because as within, so without, it requires that we actively choose to push against that which we know is not true, that which we know is not our truth. But to push against it in the way that the world is awakening is going to come very, very, very swiftly. It's going to come when we rise up together with a powerful voice, and it's right around the corner. But here's the thing: most people who are going to want to push against the controls that are happening, as Vern said, they're happening. They're not coming. We're in the tunnel. We're in the tunnel. We haven't reached the darkest point of the tunnel, but we're in the tunnel. But the light is on the other side, and here's the light: knowing the truth in your heart, understanding your mind, and knowing the truth in your heart. Because there is a guidance that is coming to each and every one of us for how to deal with what is happening. And every one of us has got to, that is awake, is receiving guidance that has us do what we're supposed to do, however that shows up, to participate in the activation of the strong I do not consent that is necessary, that we say that to our own ego. There are many times I've told my own egoic mind, I'm not believing what you're telling me. I do not consent to living by your insanity anymore. I had to get my mind not only clear in terms of quieting a lot of fears before I finally got to see the ego. You can't really see the ego until you are really truly committed to giving up every single fear. And the final fears in this journey are the fears of the body dying, the fears of, ultimately, one of the final fears that we have to deal with, as the Course in Miracles tells us, is our fear of God. Most people, I know, I was in that camp, do not understand God, do not know God, because it's been part of the plan to keep us from knowing God. That's why he was put up on a cloud somewhere and turned into a he. It's not even a he, it's an energy. So it's an intelligence. So we have to get beyond our fear of our body, fear of our physical experience, physical life, because that blocks our awareness of what eternal life is all about. But we have to come to terms with a relationship with a creative source. And the creative source is what the Course in Miracles wants us to have a relationship, wants us to get to know. Yes, Lorelei. Oh, I can't hear you.
So what you're basically saying is each of us individually has to do this journey on some level to affect anything that's going on out there. So the more we rail against that, not it's all, what's happening, is it not an invitation, an opportunity to come deeper inside and excavate what we're seeing out there in us?
Yes, exactly. Because the Course in Miracles tells us that there's only one of us here. So when we each take the Course in Miracles as, I'm the only one here, I'm the only child of God here that has projected everything out there, in the recognition that everything out there comes from me, I've got to call it back into me. And the way we call it back into me is by saying, yep, there's a murderer in me. Yes, there's a kind person in me. Yes, there's a liar in me. And
There's
as
a
we,
controller in me, right?
there's a controller in me. There's a false god in me. There's a, you know, there's a prostitute in me. There's a pimp in me. There's a child abuser. I've been the child that's been abused. When we can say, yes, all of that is emanating from within the consciousness that has the free will to project out this experience, what we begin to do is twofold. One, to begin to accept our oneness. Nothing is happening out there without a direct connection to what is in here. But then we accept our power, because it would not be projected out there if it wasn't because of my desire to have an experience with it. And the Course is really clear. We are not saying that all of that stuff out there is terrible and bad and has power over us. It is saying that it is a disowned aspect of ourselves that is not connected to our true source of power, and it's been projected out there to activate its own force upon us, because then it comes back to affect us. So this is all a very uncomfortable journey for those who do not believe that they have a murderer in them or that they have a controller in them. But as you know from our many classes and in the coaching that I do with people, it's not to say, oh yeah, I'm that bad person. It's to say I have that potential too. I could do that too under those circumstances. If I walk that walk, I too would do exactly as they've done. Let me forgive them, for they don't know what they're doing. But when we stop judging it, we literally take the power away from it. We pull our power back to ourselves. And in pulling our power back to ourselves, we literally become brighter and more powerful, and God can use us more clearly because our mind is not filled with fear. Now we can be very clear, determined warriors for the light.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, go ahead, please.
So one question. So we're 12 of us here. So 12 apostles, right?
12 apostles,
yeah. So what is something that each of us, wherever we are in this belief system, can say when someone like Vern, who just said what he said about, and they've closed this down, and, you know, in other words, what's the best, not posture, what's the best energy to the frequency? In other words, like, what's a statement or something we can say, not to judge, no critic, but to hold that higher frequency and the light in that situation?
Oh, and that's a wonderful question. And it comes down to what the Course says. First, you've got to get in complete honesty. And that honesty says, Father, what would you have me do? Because every time I do something, I keep doing the same thing, expecting a different result. My mind is too humanized to know divine truth. Father, what would you have me do? And then we become that conduit, that vessel, that instrument of God's peace. And sometimes the guidance for some may be, well, then you go and stock up on the supplies wherever you can find them. Sometimes that guidance says, get on your knees and begin to pray and visualize the healing on this planet. Sometimes that voice is going to lead us to say, go get involved in politics. Sometimes that voice will lead us to say, call your representative. We are reactivating our awareness of how important we are to the system. We have totally and completely been so, I'm going to say, well, bamboozled is one of the words, but we have been desensitized to that this government is a government of the people, by the people, for the people. We're allowing 500 and some odd people to control 200 million. And we operate like that somehow makes sense. It doesn't make sense. We are the ones with the power, but if we don't band together, which is why they have us divided with fear, you know, they have us divided by color. The Black Lives Matter, the White Lives Matter now. They have us divided by sexual orientation, by sexuality. They have us divided by political parties, by, you know, so many things. And now they have us divided by, you know, the shot or not. So we are being divided and subdivided to the point that we are going to be so disempowered if we believe those things, that it's going to require something drastic to wake up 200 million people. Around the world, people are standing up and marching, but they don't show that on mainstream media here. They don't show the millions of people, 200 million that were marching in India against the government. They don't show that here because they don't want the American people to realize that when you stand up and speak up, you have power. So it's a very simple question. We've got to get honest. We cannot do this by ourselves anymore. We've got to get the power of the creative source, because that's where the intelligence comes in. We have abdicated our intelligence to we've been dumbed down, and we don't even understand what our founding fathers did so that we would have these freedoms. We've got to recognize and be honest. No, I really don't know. God, what would you have me do? And you know what's amazing? The answers are coming to those who are ready. So thank you for that question. Vern, you were going to say something.
Yeah. What I just shared this morning about those things that are happening, that's awareness.
Mm-hmm.
In other words, I don't consider that I'm attacking anything.
Absolutely.
I'm sharing an awareness that I have of what's going on. The way you interface with that and what you do about that information or that awareness is totally up to you. And because I know there's a lot of people out there that are spiritually oriented, that have fears around guns or whatever. I understand that, and you should have that if you don't understand what's going on with them. But this is where it's so I think we have a duty to share our awareness. That's part of what because if you don't, then what you're doing basically is you're just pushing it down inside yourself as well. But I don't take those things as attack. I take it as, here's what I've observed. Here's what I'm aware of now. I'm sharing that information. Now, what you do with that is up to you. And there is another piece of it, like you said, is we can share a lot of awareness and look at what's going on with all the things that are happening. That's the educational part of it. But then afterwards, once you get that, the big question is, well, what are we supposed to do about that? And there's where the tricky thing comes in. Because if you're going to react to it and come from a space of fear, then you're going to act and do things that will cause more harm to you as well as to anybody else around you. So there's a second part, and there's awareness, and then there is action. And the action needs to be thought through, and it needs to be aligned. I don't want to take the reason I want to be able to arm myself is not so I can go take things from other people. I want to make sure that I am protected, and people around me that need to be protected, that want to be protected, has that. That's what it's about. I'm not going out looking. Now, there are people out there I know that are out looking for problems. And they justify all the stuff that's going on, and that's why they're out, carrying weapons and doing all this other stuff, and ain't I bad, and all that stuff. But that's not the intention. The intention is to share information. And that's why I have a problem with what's happened with you, because you're sharing information with the intention of facilitating people to get their own truth. Now, what better? I mean, I can't think of anything that's more powerful than to share information with the understanding, along with, here's the information. Now, I support you. I really support you in finding your own truth around this. And there's where the problem, there's where the difference is. Some people want to tell you what to do. Here's what's happening, and this is what you're supposed to do. Versus, here's what's happening. You need to go and get your own truth.
And
that's big. Yeah. That's a big thing. They don't talk about that.
Do we really want to hold this as a problem?
No, we don't want to hold this as a problem. This is what the Course in Miracles wants us to align with. This is happening because we have free will, And this is in reality, which most people don't want to hear, in capital R reality, this is really a dance, a game of consciousness, a game of energy. What is happening is those who are waking up realize we don't have to keep playing the game under the densities of control, of power, of deception, of lies, of sickness, of death. We are tired of the game that way. We are tired of the dance that way. We want to dance this way. Well, those who get their power from this kind of a dance don't want us to leave the dance floor and create our own dance floor. And this is where, to Vern's point, and we're going to read some of this in the course. I want to get to the course to share another way, a way that if we don't find peace in our heart, if we don't liberate our hearts, we will not be able to respond. We will not be able to discern the awareness that is coming fast and furious. So that awareness is important about what's happening. Then we've got to get that discernment piece going. So let me share what the course wants us to receive. So as I said before, this is in chapter 20 in the text, the beginning part of the course, and the title is The Vision of Holiness.
What page, Laina?
This one happens to be on page 432, and it is section 4 inside chapter 20. And this section is titled Entering the Ark. And the Ark is to understand that we know in the story of Noah's Ark, the Ark is what led people to freedom. So entering the Ark is to enter into the promise of freedom, enter into a covenant with God where we are receiving truth, where we are opening up ourselves to activate the truth that is already in us. Because here's a beautiful thing. If you understand that the world out there is projected from what is inside, you connect with the light in you, and the light is then what gets projected out to undo the illusion. But it is that illusion gets undone in many different ways. And for many, as we have seen it, even with our founding fathers, with those who have protected this country, those who have protected their kingdoms, exactly as Vern was saying, we have a right to protect what has been given to us. And that is what we have been trained into believing is not ours, and we have to get it from the outside. And that is where the biggest learning has to happen. There is no power outside of us. We give it away, but we give it away not fully if we understand the laws of creation. So let me read in paragraph 1. Nothing can hurt you unless you give it the power to do so. Yet you give power as the laws of this world interpret giving. As you give, you lose. Let's understand what this says. This world, and we're going to use an example for, we're going to use the jab. Our mind has been filled with information for a century. Really in terms of the serious propaganda for about a century, that our well-being comes from the outside, that it comes from the medical establishment, that they know what's better, and along with that, the pharmaceutical world, that they know what's really better for our physical beingness. So our mind has been conditioned to believe they have the power to heal us, which is absolutely not true according to God, none whatsoever. So there has been a systematic process to what Vern was talking about, awareness. We have to understand, we have to be willing to do the research to find out how has the medical establishment gotten to where it is dishing out information, truly misinformation, that tells us that the healing power for a body that gets created totally on its own, with no doctor creates a body, not one. How can that which creates itself get healing from something external? It has to come from the inside. Now, that doesn't mean that the external doesn't facilitate and create the optimal environment for that internal healing to happen, but it never happens from the outside. So let's look at this sentence again. Nothing can hurt you unless you give it the power to do so. Yet you give power as the laws of this world interpret giving. As you give, you lose. We have got to get really clear. We have been indoctrinated into believing that by giving them our power, in reality, what is happening today that we can see more clearly is by giving our power away to those we think will make us better, we are losing our own well-being. Literally, are losing not only our ability to connect with God, with source, with intelligence, and activate the healing of the body, as so many teachers have taught, specifically Dr. Joe Dispenza, who, his information, the information of many, many, many doctors who speak of self-healing, that is not what they want us to hear. So when we give our power away, the thing that we give our power to, believing it's going to give us well-being, is how we lose our well-being. So keep that in mind. The world is designed with the ego in control, that giving power away, we think we gain something, but actually we are losing. And think about it's logical, because you have just said, I don't have the power to heal myself. What signal does that send to your physical vessel? It sends a signal that, hey, we're going to shut down if they don't help us. That disempowers your physical body. That sends a signal that you are no longer in control. The driver's not in control here. And that's what the external world wants us to believe. So then it continues. It is not up to you to give power at all. So this is Jesus giving us a commandment in the Course in Miracles. It is not up to you to give power at all. Power is of God, given by him and reawakened by the Holy Spirit, who knows that as you give, you gain. So God is the only source of power, period. We get to use that power with awareness. We use it intelligently because we align with it. Without awareness, we use it unintelligently. We use it the way that we've been conditioned to use power, by giving it away, thinking we're gaining something when actually we're losing. We're losing. This is how this looks. We come in all powerful with God's power is at our disposal. We come in pure consciousness, perfect. We are in love, joy, and peace. We come in enlightened in the light. Then we enter into this world where we begin to little by little accept. This is what acceptance is. We accept what the world teaches us, and we descend into the density of the world of the ego and fears. So what is happening right now is many of us have to wake up and decide to move up to the awareness. We got to go seek the awareness that is being kept from us. When we enter into the world and we buy into the story of the ego, what we do is we encapsulate ourselves in a very small potential of what we can be. We descend, we spiral. Being the magnificent beings that we are, we spiral down, and little by little forget who we are, and then we descend into a very finite little idea of who we think we are. And most of us operate inside of that tiny little dot, inside of a capsule. Our minds' ideas are encapsulated inside of a consciousness, a construct of how things should be. So then this goes on to state, one of the things that's really important for us to understand is so go back to this sentence. The power is of God. The power is of God. We got to unwind our mind and return back to where the power is. Otherwise, we have descended into a very small idea of who we are. And once we make ourselves tiny, we can become controlled by those who are creating a circle around us. And then what happens is we lose our ability to connect to God, because we think that we're these tiny insignificant beings that have to follow rules. So God gives no power to sin. And you have to understand what the Course in Miracles means by sin. Sin is miscreation. In the original terminology for sin is a Greek term for archery, missing the mark. So we're missing the mark. The mark is not here. The mark is to be outside. But remember earlier I said everything in this world is upside down, and we're told this is the mark. You want to aim for your little bitty world. But this is to miscreate. To miscreate is to think that we're less than what we are. So we miss the mark of being expanded and being free. And God gave us the power to be free, so free that we can choose bondage. And that's one of the things that we have to understand about this power. He gives no power to sin, and therefore it has none. For to its results, as this world sees them, nor to its results as this world sees them, sickness and death and misery and pain. There would be no pain, there would be no misery, there would be no sickness whatsoever, there would be no death if we didn't believe in it. The world that we see filled with all of those things is the results of minds who are not accessing the expanded consciousness. We're missing the mark by being out here because we've been conditioned to go to the bullseye. The bullseye is where we lose our power. We enter into that place because we're forced to think that we're less than what we are. Our ability to expand is to begin to play with the possibility. And this is a very hard thing for people to do. Well, what if I am that eternal? What if I have that much power? Little children have that power. They're little, baby dolls maybe break a leg or something, and they go immediately and pretend that they're the doctor, and they go, oh yeah, you're fine, you're alive. And their imagination is so active. We have lost our ability to imagine, well, what if I had that much power? And that is exactly what the powers that be, those who, just like in the times of Jesus, the pharaohs, the Pharisees, what is it? Caesar's people, they knew that if they distract us with fearful things or try to attract us into shiny little temporary objects like money, like status, like power, we would be totally, completely pulled into this tiny little idea of ourselves, and we would give up our freedom because we're easily distracted when we are disconnected from our truth. And the lies that have been coming to us, that God is on a cloud somewhere, and we're sinners according to the teaching of sinning from the church, that there's something wrong with us, we're bad, we're not powerful. That disconnection from God and perpetuation of lies in our mind has corrupted us. It's given us the real virus, is the lies that are in our mind that block us from feeling the truth that is in our heart. And we can't experience the truth in our heart until we understand the mind, because the mind is what controls whether we open our heart or not. And that there's no way around opening your heart and keeping it open. You can have moments of transcending the egoic mind control. You fall in love with somebody, your heart opens, and oh my God, you are floating. But then the ego mind does what it does. The heart shuts down, makes the other person responsible for your happiness, responsible for your misery. And now all of a sudden you lose that connection with the other because you were not conscious of how the mind works. And you begin to believe the things that activate fear. So you give up love. Love is the first thing that gets sacrificed. So we have to understand this. So in this world, misery and pain and death are the result of us not understanding love. Because love is not flowing, we block it with fears that are indoctrinated into our minds. The lack of love creates death, creates misery, creates suffering, creates disease. People don't want to think it's that simple, but it is that simple. It's a choice that we create from our soul level. It's a choice to play in the density, but we were not destined to be stuck in that for so long. We were destined to have an experience of it, like a little kid that plays with, let's play hide and seek, let's go into the dark, but somebody comes and finds us. The teachers that have been trying to find us, the Buddhas and the Jesus and the Confucius and the Lao Tzu and the Martin Luther King Jr.'s and the Gandhi, these teachers have been coming, they've been coming, but we can't hear the message. And more importantly, if you hear it, we cannot apply it because we are stuck inside of a bubble of fear that we think is our reality. Everything that they teach us about love out here sounds beautiful and wonderful, but not for me, because we're not courageous enough. This is where courage comes in. We're not courageous enough to say, maybe I have it wrong. Maybe my egoic pride and righteousness has it wrong. What if I let myself be wrong by myself? Maybe my thoughts are wrong. It's one of the scariest things we'll ever do, because we are so conditioned to be right that the thought of being wrong is associated with severe punishment. That's what the mom, dad, teachers did to us. They punished us when we were wrong. We don't want to be wrong, let alone admit that our mind is wrong. That's why it's so difficult to wake somebody up that's not ready. Typically, some illusion has to bust on its own. Like soon, the illusion of freedom in this world is about to be busted big time for many people. But it has to be that way. Otherwise, how are they going to wake up? Yes, a lot of us are teaching, but there's been millions of teachers on this planet. A lot of you are sharing this information, but most of the people around us are not going to believe what we're saying, because in their fears, they cannot believe that it could be this simple, as much as just loving yourself, learning to love God. That simplicity is exactly what the ego has taken advantage of to give us a very complex way of figuring everything out. That's why you need so many degrees. You need so many certifications. You need so many books to become an expert in anything, because they have made it seem it's backwards, that the truth is very complicated when it's actually very, very simple. But it requires the courage to be wrong and begin to question if there's another way. So Course in Miracles goes on to say, basically, when God did not give us sickness, death, and misery or pain, these things have not occurred because the Holy Spirit sees them not and gives no power to their seeming source. Thus would he keep you free of them. Now, let's be clear. We have got to understand that we are pure consciousness. That's the highest level of frequency. Pure consciousness. We are energy. We are not these physical bodies. And recognizing that we are consciousness, tapping into intelligence and accessing that intelligence that created the experience of this body. That's when you begin to understand love. That love allows anything to be what it wants to be, because love is freedom. The creative source said, use this intelligence and create whatever you want. You can make anything that you want to make, but here's the thing. You'll be lost in the illusion that that thing is real only temporarily while you're in an incarnation. When you are in your awareness of that you are just pure energy, none of those things are real. They can't. How do you kill energy? How do you make energy sick? It's not possible. What you do is you contract it, you confine it. What God gave us as energy to create extends out. That's why they don't want us to have freedom. They're basically telling us everybody has to fit into this little circle. Let me make this a little clearer so that we can understand. Here are all the people in our tiny little minds we have brought ourselves down into a small idea of ourselves. Here's the controller say, this is what your reality is. Okay, we're going to teach it to you since you're born. And all of us scared people are in here. And, so 8 million people. Those who create a little hole to get out and stand out here, well, those are the conspiracy theorists. Those are the ones who we got to be careful for. So what is happening right now is that those of us who are beginning to see how to get out, we are being made to appear, crazy and telling untruths, so that these people won't follow us out of there. Because if this person comes out as well, there's one less person there feeding the machine. If this person comes out as well, now there's less people feeding the machine. Do you see how this works? So if we begin to come out of the illusion of separation, of the illusion that an external source has power, we don't feed the machine. And when we don't feed the machine, we're a problem. So what do they want to do? Tarnish those personalities, tarnish reputations. And this is where, if you're not free to know the truth of who you are, you will suffer. You then are not outside of the machine. You are one who may be found truth, but you're still in the machine. You're still inside of the bubble, because fear, this line is pure fear. And fear is what the Course is saying is the sin. To believe a misinformation, to believe that you're bound by other people. Again, you go back to our Constitution, all men are endowed, all men and women are endowed by our Creator with the same inalienable rights. Why are we not screaming and saying it's in our founding documents? Because we're too afraid to question the documents, because we are too afraid to be thrown, to be inside here, cast as the bad person, because we're not free to stand in here and say, I don't care what you do to me, I'm going to speak the truth, because I'm as God created me. I'm not a body, I am free. And you have to lose the fear of death to really understand freedom. And that is not an easy thing to do until you understand God and know that God is energy, it's intelligence, and it is what we have access to play with. But we've been playing with it in a game that is boring, absolutely boring now for those of us who want to play with the light. We came in and had our experience using our free will to say, this feels so much better. I love playing with collaboration and co-creation. I don't no longer like the game of control. Once I became a conscious parent, I realized I don't want to control my children anymore. You guys decide what is best for you, because if you don't learn from fear, you learn from consequences of doing things by fear. So there's two options. You can learn by looking at what you are doing, or by the consequences of them. And once I realized I don't want to teach my children by the consequence of my controlling them, I wanted to free them. And in freeing them, I moved into the light and began to see them as powerful sovereign beings. That changed our relationship. But I used to really enjoy, I was very prideful with my demanding that they do what I wanted them to do, because it inflated my ego. I went through quite a journey, quite a few years of letting go and seeing my children as my equals so that I could release them. I had to accept that I didn't know what was best for anybody else. I had to accept that they have God just as much as I do. I had to forgive myself for my insanity, missing the mark, for my sinfulness, so that I could restore harmony with my brothers and sisters in Christ, my brothers and sisters, because we're all made of the same energy. That's it. That's how we're brothers and sisters, because we're all part of the same one energy. So Course in Miracles goes on to say, being without illusion of what you are, the Holy Spirit merely gives everything to God, who has already given and received all that is true. The untrue, he has neither received nor given. There is a voice inside of us that doesn't operate with what's untrue. It's the voice of intuition. It's the voice that we've been trained out of listening to. Intuition is directly connected to our innate knowingness, to our body's innate intelligence. When you sever intuition, you are not activating your innate well-being. How do you sever intuition? Make people think that they don't know anything, that experts are outside, that the ones who know are outside of them. Once you cut that line, you are in the circle. You are stuck inside of a consciousness of limitation and control. And guess what's going to happen? With your fear of death, you'll do whatever they tell you. You'll do whatever they tell you, even to the point that you think you're giving power to that thing that they put in you, only to find out later on that actually by giving them power to make you well, you made yourself sicker. But the mind, the human mind that is indoctrinated into listening to the ego, cannot understand that. It has to be shared little by little by little with a gentle being that shares that information with them. What is coming is literally We are moving from resurrection. Jesus wanted us to learn the simple way. Learn by acknowledging your fears. We didn't choose to learn that way. We are now learning by the consequences. So we have to have massive consequences of what happens when we give up our freedom because we have fear. And fear is what the controllers use to keep us inside of our cages. And we are in for a rude awakening because there are many that have come out. Like Vern is saying, they're not afraid to help liberate those who are ready. And that is, it's necessary. We have got to get our warrior energy going. It's part of the game. Part of the game is to activate any energy. So why not activate the warrior energy? And it doesn't mean that we're going to go ahead and go, as Vern was saying, we don't have to go shoot anybody because we don't like what they're saying, but we can stand firm and acknowledge our freedom. And what happens when 200 million people stand together saying, nope, we are not buying into your game, to 500 and some odd politicians, maybe 600, maybe 1,000 politicians, if you take all the governors and city people, whatever, police people, they cannot stand. They can't uphold continuing to make us fearful, but we're not willing to stand together because we've been encapsulated into so many divisive little groups. Now the blacks are not going to want to help the whites. Now the ones who got the jab are not going to want to help the ones who didn't get it. The ones who are transsexual don't want to help the ones who are, who are for only, male-female marriages. Now we are so divided that we can't become united. How will we come united? When something massive happens to shake the foundation, and it's coming, it has to, because that's what's in the middle of the tunnel. The darkest point in the tunnel is in the middle of the tunnel, and we are walking towards that pretty fast and pretty quickly, because I predict we're going to see the middle of the tunnel this year. We have to see it this year because it's getting too insane. Paragraph number 2 says, sin has no place in heaven. This is heaven. There's no place to miscreate outside of the insanity. This is why we need to get out to where we are going to meet the mark. The mark is freedom. It's outside of that insanity, where its results are alien and can no more enter than can their source. None of this, nobody can control out here. If you are out here, if you are free out here where God put us, how can a controller control you? You're out here, can't control you. Can only control us when we are in here buying into the illusion of separation, buying into the illusion that they have power because we've bought into that. So there's no sin out in heaven, but you got to get out to heaven. And eventually we bring heaven to this world when we break down the illusion of separation. So, and therein lies your need to see your brother as sinless. In him is heaven. See sin in him instead, and heaven is lost to you. But see him as he is, and what is yours shines from him to you. Here is where the course is drastically different from anything that I've ever studied. Here is where the course brought me to my knees and out of my spiritualized superiorness. My spiritualized ego had me not seeing this. And this is exactly what Jesus taught. This is exactly what the true teachers have taught. So many of us want to get out here to be free. The course is teaching us we have got to be free in here. When we are free in there, we see everybody who is in that circle as a projection, as I was saying earlier, as our brother and sister. And in our gentleness with our brother and sisters, because we're being gentle with ourselves, love is gentle. We have the conversations that need to be had where we bring to them the remembering, I know that you're a powerful, magnificent creator. I see that in you. Why are you giving your power away? Now, we can't have these conversations with people who don't want them, But instead of telling them what they're doing wrong, instead of bashing them for their mistakes, is really a loving, caring conversation that says, I can tell that you took that jab. Why did you take that? Well, because it's going to make me better. Do you remember that there's God, healing power inside of you? Well, no, it's in the medicine. It's in the thing that they're giving me. And that's when an honest, gentle conversation, brother to brother, sister to sister, can happen. I remember being afraid like that. I had my children vaccinated because I really thought that those things were better. But then I began to discover things. I began to listen to this one person. Here, if you're interested, I'll share that website with you. And then I began to hear this other thing. And then I decided, no, I can't participate in that. Right now, the activation of light on this planet is creating an opening inside of every single person that is scared, an opening that is causing them to say, there's got to be another way. There has to be another way. They're beginning to see the censorship. They're beginning to see, I saw a friend of mine who made a comment when I put my post about Facebook taking down what I had put on my profile, who was like, really? They did this? That's an opening. That's an opening for a conversation that with gentleness and with love will do so much more than will do nothing with attack. Right now, the noose is getting tighter and tighter around humanity's neck. And as we begin to feel like some, not me, I know I'm not a body, so I have zero fear of death. So I know that if this incarnation is to end soon, it's simply because it's part of my script to come back. And that's okay with me. As the noose gets tighter and tighter, and people begin to see the freedoms that are about to get taken away, if this passport thing passes, that maybe I shouldn't even say that word. Ooh, this video, I'm going to start saving my videos. Actually, I'm going to be moving to, I think it's called Rumble, but I've got hundreds of videos on YouTube that I've got to move. So it's going to be a little slow process, but I'm going to start with this series. So as they roll out these passports, which, some states are saying no to, but not, they're going to make it at some point. You can't get food if you don't have the passport. It's coming. If you read Agenda 21, you'll see it laid out. This is not something that's not out there for us to find. It's been out there for decades. There has been a plan. Vern's shaking his head. He knows. And we've been called crazy people for sharing what is there. So anyhow, how they are going to do things is totally laid out. You just have to be willing to look for it. And now, because the noose is getting tighter, people are beginning to feel the constraints, and they're beginning to see how their friends, people that they love, are being treated, like by Facebook or YouTube or whatever. There is an opening, and that opening, we can only enter that opening if we enter gently. Because if we don't enter gently, they're going to be scared and shut it. That opening is the mind saying, maybe things are not quite what they seemed. They're watching maybe the president that they think won, that they might have supported, and going, some things are not adding up. There's less unity happening. What's going on here? And when we begin to see the double standards, there is something that innately begins to open up for us. And that's what the Course wants us to understand, that in our brothers and sisters, we're going to find our Savior. Because until I began to see those who I thought were attacking me, when I began to get exposed to the Course in Miracles, as my opportunity for me to practice the characteristic of gentleness, I did not understand what real love is. Real love, I discovered when I had my children, but then I lost that real love when I went into control. And I discovered that real love when I freed them to do whatever they wanted to do, whether it was drugging, whether it was whatever they wanted to do. When I freed my children because I trusted God is in them and they needed to find God in them, that was their source of liberation, their source of power. When I began to do that with my children, I began to feel that real love that I felt for them when they were first born. It was unconditional. Then I began to feel that real love with my former husband, when I began to be defenseless, when his angers or his fears that I was cheating on him became so, I could tell he was so afraid that I was going to leave him, when I began to have compassion for his pain. But I knew it's in his head, because I wasn't cheating. So it had to be in his head. If it wasn't happening, my awareness told me if it's not me doing it, it's him imagining it, projecting it on me. That's when I knew my acceptance, he is where he is. Let me forgive him. He doesn't know what he's doing. He's believing a story in his head. He's stuck in hell. I'm out here in heaven. How can I from heaven assist him? Well, from heaven, I assist him by recognizing that he can create his story if he wants to. If there's no opening to ask me what my truth is, there's no opening. And that's when I had to understand that love frees everybody to do what they want to do. And if that's what he wanted to believe, because there was no opening to question what was really happening with me, if I didn't free him to let him think that, then I did not really actually love him. Lawnmowers are here. I did not really love him. So I needed to prove to myself that I have the capacity to love as God loves. And that's when I began to understand how God loves. God doesn't judge us for playing with matches. God doesn't judge us, because even if we burn the whole planet down, it's all made of energy. When we exit this planet, we can then create another planet. We have the ability to create. That's why this universe doesn't have end, because we have the ability to create whatever we want. We were made in the image of the Creator. We are creators. However, on this planet that is so beautiful, there are many of us who have been waking up, and we want this planet to be returned to its beautiful state as paradise. And we came here deliberately to play the game of awakening those who are asleep. And to wake up those who are asleep, we are going to have to get a little bit out of our comfort zone. But if you get out of your comfort zone with God in you, what is there to fear? That is what the Course wants us to understand, is that we have the ability to activate changes. But they will not happen if we don't use our voice. Our voice, let me show you, those of you who understand the chakras, let's talk chakras here for a little bit. If you understand all of these things, these are symbols, these are signals, this is information that's been around for a very long time. Let's talk about chakras. I'm not going to bother with the different colors. So the first three chakras are operating right now in the realm of the ego. Our first chakra, who we are in this world, male, female, grounded to be an expression of that masculine, feminine energy, which now the way the operators of the control, they're confusing the children who are coming in. They're totally confusing them. They're not letting them understand who they are. That kind of confusion has been around for a very long time, where masculine dominates feminine. Feminine is supposed to be a victim to masculine. That's why rape and torture happens, because we have misunderstood the differences of these energies that are supposed to work together. Our second chakra, where we hold our emotions, because as little children, we were told, stop crying or I'll give you something to cry about. We don't know how to feel our emotions and process them. We don't. We really, really don't. That's what's getting activated is these fears now that people don't know how to process. That's why they need kind beings like us to say, I remember when I was there, just like you. I have been scared too, just like you. I thought external sources were my saviors. Just like you, I had idols. Just like you, I listened to my ego. Kindness is the only way, gentleness is the only way to help somebody open up to their emotional fears. Third chakra is the chakra of our beliefs. This is where we hold all of the beliefs that go against our knowing. Do you know where our true source of innate power comes from? Right here. It's in the third chakra. We have to free the third chakra from all of the misbeliefs about where power lies. So our mind gets filled with information. That's all third chakra. Our beliefs are upside down. We're believing what the world has taught us instead of remembering what we brought in that is of God. So next chakra, fourth chakra, that's the heart, right there in the center. How do you get to the heart? You have to have courage. Why do you think courage, the word courage is the word courage? Because it comes from the French word cœur. Cœur means heart. The heart chakra is where we have to have the courage to move out of our egoic pride and say no to the things of the world and enter into a space that feels very lonely. And it feels very lonely because it's you and God and your thoughts and your emotions. They have to be unpacked with love, kindness. And then what happens is that the next three chakras, our voice chakra, we've been taught to suppress. We've been taught that only those who are oppressing us have the permission to express themselves. Backwards, totally backwards. So we are not using our voice to speak out. Why? Because we don't have the courage, because our heart's shut down, because our mind is filled with information that are beliefs that are missing the mark. So our mind is controlled by the beliefs in our third chakra center. We got to open that up. We got to clean that up. We got to let the energy of truth expand, and it expands. It moves upwards and opens up the heart because it controls it. Thoughts control our true heart. So we have to open up our willingness to speak. From courage, the willingness to speak, we have to accept that we are powerful. And then we have to forgive ourselves for having given our power away. These things all work in tandem. I mean, they all work in tandem. We are not a disconnected system. Not only is every person here needing to work together in unity, but inside of us, we have to learn to work with our energy centers in unity. When we begin to speak up, it is not what the controllers like. Controllers don't like people who speak up. But if you speak up with fear, you're going to be put in your place pretty quickly. If you speak up with love, you become the example of one who no longer fears. Those are the ones who have made a difference in this world. A lot of fearful people have spoken up, but we don't really read about them. But the ones that make an impression are those who spoke from love, because they got their energy so cleared up that they were operating with a knowingness that they're not bodies, they are free exactly as God created them. That allowed them to leave messages that have touched millions, billions on this planet. But this is what Ascension is all about. Once we open our voice and we do it lovingly, we have got to clear up our third eye. Our third eye, which is right here, and our pineal gland is right there. Most of us are not aware. I wasn't aware about what the pineal gland is and what it does. Do you know that our pineal gland has been systematically affected with things that are supposed to be good for us, like fluoride, calcifying our pineal gland? Our pineal gland doesn't work as it should. Our pineal gland is something that is designed to give us vision, clearer vision about what's happening. That's why it's called the third eye. Those who understood that have been giving us the signals for a very long time. If we keep reading information that is given to us by Americans or by current people, we are really missing the ancient truths that have been here forever. So we've got to open up our third eye. The Course teaches us about the vision of the Holy Spirit. Once we open up our third eye and we begin to see beyond the physical, which again, the powers that be don't want us to understand our connection to the non-physical. We are not alone in this universe. We're connected to so much more. Then we can open up our crown chakra to receive the guidance that comes in. But you cannot open up the crown chakra to receive guidance from so many different places consistently. And a lot of people have been receiving guidance who are operating in fear. But that fear taints their messages. Their messages are not pure. They have truth in them, but they're not pure. But you can hear one who is sharing messages that are coming to them, and they are sharing a truth that comes from a very peaceful place within themselves, as Jesus did, as many have, that allows them to say, it's okay. back to that statement that was said here a little while ago. I don't remember which episode, Vern, you said it about give me liberty or give me death. When we're willing to crucify the physical body and we no longer are attached to this body, we lose the fear that allows us to really say, that's okay. Because what the ego thinks it's crucifying as the body, to the soul, it is nothing more than the freedom that gets activated because we know who we are. We know that our power is not by being human. Our power comes from our divinity. And once you open that seventh chakra, you receive the guidance of God. And by the way, it doesn't come from out there. It's an opening of a energy that is a toroidal field. It is you basically from your heart. It appears that it's coming down, but it is a circle. It is like an infinity loop that is happening within inside of ourselves. And it's the love that we have that we're bringing to release. That love is infused with intelligence. It's infused with compassion and kindness for all the ones who are playing the game of suffering that is outdated. It's like there is an expiration date on this, and we keep drinking this nasty milk. The expiration came in. When did Jesus get crucified 2,000 years ago? We got told you don't need to play this game again. But we've been drinking this sour milk, and many of us are sick and tired of that sour milk. We are ready for something new. We're ready for a new game. Course in Miracles, in this section, Entering the Dark, wants us to understand you cannot enter into the ark. You cannot enter into your total freedom if you don't stop believing that you are a victim. If we do not accept our power, if we do not accept that there's something inside of us that wants us to do good, that wants us to succeed, to have everything that we want, if we don't recognize that is so in the little things that we do day to day, if we don't infuse 100% commitment into the things that excite us, that we wanted to participate in, our ego little by little tricks us into, you can't complete this. Well, you can't complete that. We've got to complete the things that are in our immediate circle so that we can see how powerful we are, and then activate a knowingness that we're here on a mission, and we complete the big picture. But we can't complete the big picture if we don't know who we are. And that requires so many things, the cleaning up of our mind, the releasing of old energies, emotions that have not been released. So let me complete this one paragraph in paragraph number 2. And then next week we can pick up with the rest because it's so powerful and so beautiful. So see sin in your brothers. If you see sin in your brothers, then heaven is lost to us. But see him as he is, and what is yours shines from him to you. Just like me, you have God in you. Just like me, you have goodness in you. If we are judging what is wrong with them, it's coming from us, projected to them. But if we see what is good in them, we're calling them into their goodness. We have to see them as good. You can hear the truth on your own. Let me share it with you for those who are willing to hear it. And your platforms, your emails, your texts, you have, each of us, the ability to affect a certain number of people. If we begin to speak the truth and don't care about what others might want to do to censor you, then you're really accessing your heart, which means you're accessing your which means you're accessing your courage. And from that place, you're really beginning to allow God to work through you to infuse this world with more light. Your Savior, our brothers and sisters, give you only love, but what you would receive of him is up to you. Why do our brothers and sisters give us only love? Because that's the only thing God gave them to give. Everything else is a block to that. Nobody is giving us anything other than love, but we can't feel it if we don't open up the channel for giving and receiving. And the giving and receiving is the recognition of saying, hey, you got love in you. I know you love me. Biden, I know you're a good person. You're a soul. You are a soul playing a role. I'm expecting better from you. Come on, man. Tell the truth. Come on, man. Start using your superpowers as God created them to save the children. Stop using your superpowers of your throat chakra to keep spreading lies. If we begin to, instead of shaming and blaming for what is being done wrong, we call forth what is right. But we have to believe that that is in our brothers and sisters before we actually feel it in ourselves. This game that God created is actually quite remarkable. You can't find yourself until you find the self in the other and then claim it for yourself. It is truly that giving and receiving happens as one. While we blame them and shame them, the ego blocks that truth from our reality. While we acknowledge the good that is in them, which the ego doesn't want us to do. What? They're good? I cast them out of heaven. You can't bring them back into heaven by saying that they're good. When I did that for my ex-husband and I began to see him as nothing more than a person who was lost in fear, and I began to have compassion for his fear instead of defending my truth that I'm not cheating on you, I realized that he was giving me a great gift. He descended into that story so that I could have the courage to step into my truth and say, I'm going to do it through love. I am not going to stand here and tell you how stupid you're being by believing something that's not true. I'm not going to bring in the evidence. I'm not going to, tell you to get a detective to follow me so you can see that this is not happening. I decided, nope, I'm not going to defend myself. I'm going to see you as giving me an opportunity to love you no matter how insane you are. And if it means that we part ways, you still gave me the gift of the freedom that I discovered can only be felt. And that's the only way you know that is love. When you can free somebody with love in your heart, you know the Father. That's when you and the Father are one. It cannot be any other way because the Father, Mother, God, Creator is love. And it wants to be free to express and extend. And the rest of this sentence here in this paragraph is that Savior that we were talking about, it lies in Him to overlook all your mistakes. And therein lies your own salvation. When we can just overlook their mistakes, we are saved. And so it is with yours. Salvation is a lesson in giving as the Holy Spirit interprets it. It is the reawakening of the laws of God in minds that have established other laws and give them power to enforce what God created not. So not only have we created all these idols out there and given them power, and we don't listen to the Constitution, we don't listen to Jesus. No wonder we don't listen to the Constitution. Exactly, Lorelei, those holy encounters is when we begin to see every moment as an opportunity to see the truth in a brother or a sister, because when we light it up in them, it's because the light in us is seeing them. That's when our third eye is active. You can't see the truth in another when you are looking with your physical eyes that are polluted by the veil of illusion, of delusion that the ego creates with the density of the 3 lower chakras. When you think you're just a human, or you're just trans, or you're just, a Democrat, or you're just a whatever, when you're thinking with those thoughts, you cannot see clearly what's happening here. We're all brothers and sisters playing a game that is done. And if we don't see that the game is done, Mom and Dad are going to call us in pretty soon. That's what's the light at the end of the tunnel. Mom and Dad eventually will call us in from playing in the dark. And we have to come in and eat our dinner, brush our teeth, and get ready for another day, another incarnation. Either we can come in by realizing that this is not fun anymore, or we're going to come in when this world takes itself to a darker place. But if you know the truth, you won't be afraid. That's the freedom that love promises. So with that, let's open it up. I know that's a lot. So next week, let's continue. This is so juicy. Oh my God, I love the Course in Miracles. Comments, questions. What were your takeaways? What were nuggets? I want to hear from you, please. Yes, Crystal.
Well, there were a couple of amazing reminders and things that came up for me. One was, as a teenager, I grew up on a small farm holding one of my responsibilities, we had mountain water. We had the great fortune to live off water that came out of eyes in the mountain. And one of my chores that was given to me was to keep those holes clean and clear. And when they got really unclear was when it rained and poured. And that's when I had to go up the mountain. So I developed a system of these coverings and oils, what we called oil skins and boots, so that I wouldn't get wet. And I suddenly realized when I was on the mountainside, I was totally alone, dry, warm, free. Even the wild animals had gone into seclusion to hide themselves. And I had the whole mountainside to myself, and I felt so powerful because I'd found a way not to be daunted by the weather that was pouring, that to the extent that I found it was beautiful. So I always looked forward to going up the mountain when it poured and rained because I knew I was totally safe. And that I liken to, for me, is to when I connect to my true understanding and source and guidance, I don't have any concerns because I will, if everything is falling around me and looks so dangerous, if I'm guided from within, it doesn't look dangerous anymore. It looks like I'm chartering my way through because I'm guided. And that's what I realized with that experience. And the other thing that I realized when you were talking about, they're circling us and we are in the center and they're circling around us. It's like they're circling their wagons around us. And the moment I connect with my inner guidance, I'm no longer in the center. And all that's left is them shooting at one another and destroying that which they've circled, including themselves. So those are the two epiphanies that I was reminded of. So thank you. It was a really nice share.
Thank you for sharing that. And ultimately, that is what is going to happen because those who want the light are leaving the circle. And those who believe in control and killing each other, they're already turning on each other. Eventually, they will destroy themselves until there's one crazy one left. And then they're going to have a realization, oh my gosh, well, why did I do that? You know, how do you win when there's only you left? But that is the insanity of the ego. It is all about destruction to the point that even itself will be destroyed inside of wanting to maintain so much power and control. So I love that analogy. If we come out of the circle, yes, they have nobody else to control. But nobody's going to come out of the circle without kindness and gentleness, except for what's coming, which is going to force people to question what they've done, because the consequences of believing their fears is going to create something inside of them to want to ask, oh my God, there's got to be another way. And then we still have to be kind and gentle with them because they're going to be scared out of their minds. Lots of little children are about to come out of that circle, scared little children who thought that they were being safely protected by mommy and daddy authority in the middle. Yes, who else wants to share?
I'm going to jump in here real quick with a similar little anecdote because I have a brother. I grew up in a family of 6 kids. And as with siblings, there was lots of, playing on each other and, things that didn't feel good to some, but the others were having lots of fun, that kind of thing. And I had one brother in particular who loved to pick on me because I reacted strongly, because I was so sensitive and he would say things that would upset me. And somewhere along the line, and it wasn't until I was probably a young adult, I finally realized that if I stopped reacting, it gave him nothing to, like I didn't give him something to fight against, right? Yeah. And so it was that place of, even if what he said was bothering me, if I just went and did what I needed to do with it myself, rather than fighting back against it, it wasn't fun for him anymore.
Yeah.
And so, and it improved our relationship greatly because I learned to control my reaction. And it wasn't that I wasn't having reactions or allowing myself the feelings, but I wasn't playing it out with him. Yeah. So as we're having this discussion today, it's like, yeah, that's kind of what I've done with the stuff that's going on in the world too. It's like, yes, I get upset. Like it bothers me, some of the things that are going on, but I'm not going to go throw that out there in a way that gives them something to fight against or puts me in a fight. So instead, it's like, I go to the people that I love and trust, and I can be like, oh, this is making me crazy, but then I can let it go. And as Christo was saying, like, I'm coming up out of the circle and into the light, like I'm choosing to remove myself from the line of fire. And there are some people who see that as an irresponsibility, where it's like, well, how can you not pay attention to what's going on in the world? And it's like, I do, but just enough to know what's going on so that I don't engage in the fight is really what it's about for me. So I also really want to honor you, Laina, with this whole discussion today and the way that you led into it, because some people would take this whole thing that's going on with YouTube as as an attack, and they would go into fight, and they would, and it's like, I love your perspective. It's like, yay me, I've finally reached a place where it's like, I love that. I love your perspective, and I thank you very much for sharing it.
Yes, once you understand that the only ones that get censored are the truth tellers. That notice the truth tellers don't censor the ones who are telling lies, because why waste energy with giving that power? But the liars spend all their energy accusing the truth tellers because they're telling the truth. They go after the messengers because they know if the message gets out, then it's game over. So they're spending a lot of energy censoring a lot of people. That's why I'm really looking forward to these new platforms that are coming so that we can come together. And what's going to happen is there's going to be a lot of us coming together that are free, and a lot that are going to be left in bondage in the middle, in the circle, that are going to, for a while, see us as crazy. But that's all right. I don't mind being crazy and free. Yes, Kat.
This is just beautiful. I said that at the beginning, that's how I feel. But I just cannot thank you enough for the truths you share. And they resonate so strongly with me. I can see areas where I have been wrong for sure and still do that. And I love the idea of having the courage. If people who are in that little box could step out and have the courage. So I can see where you're saying we have to do it with gentleness and love, because they're going to fight. Their egos are just going to explode on you. Otherwise, because I've experienced that. I'm interested. You mentioned a website. You said something about sharing a website if we'd like. Do you remember that?
I might have said that if somebody is open to hearing where you get information, that if you have a website you want to share it with them. There's so much truth out there that you can send them links, so we don't have to be the ones to tell them the truth. But if they're open, just say, hey, here's a website you may want to listen to. So it's really wherever you're finding your information, to share that with them.
Actually, you said you have a website. At least I wrote it down like that you would share with us if we'd like. So I don't know what that was. Back up when you said you're talking about love is general.
She meant any particular website that you would have, that you have learned truth from. She wasn't necessarily saying she had a specific, although she has lots.
Oh, I'm sure. Okay, so there's that, and then there's, I'm in a family situation, which I had mentioned before, of my family being torn apart, basically over ego, two egos, two really strong egos. And I can see it. And one of them is asking me strongly to come in and influence this other, which I said, no, I'm not going to do that. I trust that God has a plan, blah, blah, that I do. I just believe we have to allow them to find the truth on their own. However, I don't want to be manipulative, but I would love to send a couple of websites to one of them to say, I have some info I'd love to share with you. And you can take this and you can do whatever you want. So I get the feeling from this that is that's an okay approach.
It's a wonderful approach. And I had said something about, the jab information as Lisa's putting in there. Yes, but I didn't mention any specific website because all of us have access to lots of them. And actually at some point today, if not tonight, I'm going to create the Telegram group to add everybody here. So if everybody, we had said that you'd be open to creating that, where I'll put links for these. Little by little, I'm going to be leaving Facebook. If they don't turn around, then there's no point. I just don't feel the resonance with that place anymore. And I'm only there because that's just where I've connected with more people. But little by little, I am going to be, I don't want to be there. I don't want to be in a space that censors something as simple as, I don't want to take a jab. So in that group, when we do that, then we can begin to share things like that. Now, if you just text me, I've got a whole bunch of links. I can sift through that, tell me the specific topic, and then I'll do some searching. It won't be hard for me to find because but it really is, it's best if we share people links to information than for us to tell them that we know this is what this is all about.
Yeah. I actually have links.
Okay.
I might still, because I mean, like Robert Kennedy, Children's Health, all that.
Wonderful.
And I have other things with doctors who stepped out, and it's again.
Yeah.
Trying to share that.
And if they're open, share places where they can go get their own information. We do not want to be the source of I know the truth about this, but I have come to my peace with it because I've learned it from this one. And it is very important, especially in close circles with family members or work associates or, siblings, whatever. Don't try to tell them that you know the truth about anything, because if you're not an expert in that field, and even if you are an expert in that field, they don't want to hear from somebody that they love that they're wrong. They want to hear from somebody that they love. It's okay for you to think what you think. Can I share what I think? And this is where I found it. And now you're a facilitator of information and not the one that they're going to judge for that information.
Yeah.
And that's part of having the courage to say, I don't know the truth. I mean, I don't know the truth about this thing. I don't know the truth about the Constitution. I don't know the truth. I'm not an expert in this. Instead of being in the egoic pride, I know this because I watched this video and now I'm an expert in it.
Yeah.
Have the courage to say, no, I don't. I'm not an expert in that field, but I learned from those experts. Do you want to know? Do you want to have a link to it? So key, so key. Thank you so much for that share. Well, as always, this is always such a fun conversation. I love it. Thank you for letting me share what keeps coming from the Course in Miracles for me, because it is absolutely, I cannot express how the peace that I feel in my heart and the love that I feel in my heart for humanity, and the knowingness that everybody is exactly where they need to be, and the trust that we are moving exactly as we're supposed to be moving, and the joy to share what I enjoy more and more and more. It's really liberating to have entered the arc of truth and to be writing in that. And then I just get to play. I get to play in different things. I get to play in the gift economy. I get to play pretending I'm a teacher of truth. I get to play, having friends that I can connect with. I get to play, getting kicked off of, this or that. It's just all fun. It's a freaking game. I'm just playing with different rules now. That's all it is. Well, with the rules is what I should say. Instead of playing in the darkness, I'm playing with the rules. And it's a lot of fun, loving all my brothers and sisters and uplifting the ones who want, and cheering on in their darkness and their misery, the ones who want to be there. Why should I tell them it's not okay to be miserable? It's what they want to experience.
True.
And you'd be well served, Kat, if with those family members, you can say to them, hey, you like being separated from one another. You like not being connected. Enjoy it, leave me out of it.
Yeah.
If that's what you want, if that's what you want to do, stir up anger and fighting, go for it. You're a powerful creator just as I am.
Yeah. I've chosen to accept both.
Yeah. But remind them of how powerful they are. You guys are creating this. I don't need to tell you to stop it. You'll stop it when you get tired of playing this game. Call it a game. I mean, it is a game.
It is a game.
At the end of the day, it's a game. Because we're all energy that is going to not go anywhere. We're just going to come back if we feel like coming back for another round. So why not raise the consciousness? If you're going to come back, make it nicer. All right, everybody. Thank you all so much for this.
Thank you.
See you all next week. Love you all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Laina.
Love you.
Hey, Laina.
Thank you. Hey,
Laina.
Vern.
Laina, I'm not going to be with you. I will not be with you next week. I'll be in surgery.
Oh, goodness.
I'm
Can
having
we hold
surgery
you in
next week.
prayer? Can we
Yeah, I
hold you
would
in our prayer?
appreciate that. Absolutely. So I'll follow up and watch sometime afterwards, I'm sure. But I
Yeah.
will not be there with you next week, and
We'll be
wish
with
all
you.
well. Yeah, appreciate that.
Take us in your heart, because that's where we are anyway.
Oh,
so.
yeah, yeah.
Excellent.
All right. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
May
Thank
the
you,
blessings
brother.
be, Vern.
Thank you,
Bye.
Crystal. Appreciate it. Really do. Thank you.
Bye.
And Vern, by the way, do you need any help getting to
No.
the doctor or food afterwards?
No, I've got it all. I got it all under control.
Okay.
And I really appreciate that. And some people stepped up for me, and as I've done for them, that's what it's all about.
Yeah.
And so, no, I appreciate it. Just prayers would be great, and look forward to the following week.
Okay.
And if you want to get together and talk,
I'll reach out to you.
Yeah, let me know when. But like I said, I want the next few days anyway. It's gonna be kind of crazy. So
I'll send you an email so we can set a date for later.
sounds good. All right.
Bye, everybody. Love you all.
Bye bye.
Bye,
Take care.
guys.
See you
Bye.
later. Bye bye.